outcast, dissident, misfit, revolutionary, iconoclast, visionary. Can an individual embody any one of these concepts independently of the others? That is sort of the central thesis that underpins this little thought party that will ensue on Astrological Debilitations. I didn't even do the quotation thing. So welcome to the thought party. Let's go. All right, baby. This is a long time coming. So the prime mover behind me wanting to do kind of final mic drop on this topic of astrological debilitations versus exaltations. Not even versus, really, because I think that basically they are frequency spectrums. I'm sort of revealing ahead of time what I wanted to basically make the first principal vertical that I'm going to approach it by. The concept that debilitations, which is a very pejorative term, is a weakness in a chart, is the main thing that I seek to disprove in this drop. And the second part of the drop, and it may be released later if I ramble too much, this may be a two-parter, will actually approach some of these Nietzsche / debilitations in well-known charts. So without any further ado, let's go with the first vertical. The word Nietzsche, from the ancient etymology of the concept, because all of Hindu and the derivative Urdu, various dialects, and all language actually originates from Sanskrit. So my understanding is that Nietzsche in this original form simply meant low, L-O-W. And if you want to basically look at this in a objective perspective, you do so as anything is approached objectively through science and through the measuring of scientific principles. And this is the heart of what I'm going to talk about. That Nietzsche, the low, is a concept of frequency, or octaves, if you wish. And we'll talk about how this relates to very much apropos of this concept is how music and how the actual playing of music was transformed from the 19th to the 20th century. So let's start with that. Let me start by saying I'm not a music expert by any means. I played piano very poorly when I was a child, but I have a almost fanatical appreciation and love for all various kinds of music. I was very kind of surprised and dismayed to learn of this concept that I'm about to tell you guys about, that musical frequency was dramatically shifted when we basically progressed from symphonic music, where various instruments are being played in conjunction with each other to create this beautiful soundscape, to pop music, which is like everything from bluegrass, ragtime, jazz of the early 20th century. So the basic concept of frequency is low frequency is something like the Earth that resonates at something called the Schumann resonance, that's just below 8 hertz. And this is actually how this article that we're going to get into does a good job of talking about the, and I won't get into it here, just read the article, how this is actually a division, a number that's able to be divided very equally into 432 hertz. So in other words, 432 is divisible by Earth frequency very distinctly. Whereas 440 hertz is not. And this is, again, the difference between low frequency and high frequency. 432 hertz and 440 hertz is what musical instruments are calibrated at. So just to establish the basic concept of Nietzsche as a low frequency and Ucha as a high frequency of a planet, which are themselves arguably symphonic instruments. You can actually, measure the radio waves and hear the sounds of the planets. And if you haven't explored that, get into the internet later. So without belaboring this too much, I'm just going to kind of show the article that I highly recommend people just go and read for themselves. But the general principle is thus. Giuseppe Verdi was a composer who was very passionate about the idea that the middle A in music would be calibrated to this 432 hertz, and therefore in sort of beautiful symmetry. I don't think he maybe knew about the Schumann resonance, but that's the whole idea, is all instruments, and even perhaps the Great Pyramids of Giza and a lot of ancient megalithic structures resonate at this frequency. Apparently, this is definitely news to me, so worth exploring. But simply based on this idea that this guy Dean, whatever his name is, came in the 20th century and convinced everybody to take it up a notch and go to 440 hertz. At which point we started to begin to have music that, instead of it being pleasant and resonant, became, in like a non-pejorative way, agitating and exciting, as rock music sort of became the pinnacle of all this. And that's the idea, is that 440 hertz is an agitating frequency. So 440 hertz simply just does not resonate with what we had been accustomed to prior to this last century, which, goes back at least 100, 200, 300 years of classical music. And all of a sudden we just flip the script and wonder why we're in World War I, World War II, World War III now. I don't know. It's just like coincidence. So the next vertical I want to take this from is an actual astronomical concept that the ancient people, sort of observed, and this was why the solstice in December became such a meme, going from ancient culture all the way to Jesus Christ being born around Christmas, the December winter solstice. So what this actually is, right, is when the sun reaches the lowest point of the ecliptic, which is, the ecliptic is where all the planets travel on. It's like the band that they all follow. And the sun reaches the lowest point, meaning it's like the least amount of daylight hours in the day on the solstice around December 21st. Where it actually starts this declination is in Libra. So this is where the sun becomes Nietzsche, or debilitated. In other words, this is where the sun drops low in the ecliptical horizon. So the visibility of the sun, the awareness of the sun, right, becomes diminished at this point. So why isn't Sagittarius, where it's the lowest point, the debilitation point of the sun? Who knows? Like the whole reason, again, the moon in Scorpio, these two right next to each other, Libra and Scorpio, are the last places these planets go along the ecliptic on the low end. I feel like a meteorologist. On the low end before they start their ascent again. So here we go. We've got basically where the two luminaries are debilitated at their lowest point on the ecliptic, and Scorpio and Libra. That actually is logical. That's why it's called Nietzsche. So here's where I'll move away from the objective to the subjective. And full disclosure, I have two planets, you wouldn't guess, right, that are considered Nietzsche in my chart. And so I actually did a drop, and I'll speak a little bit more about this drop that now has 5 views, last count, which is dropped. Well, more on that to say later. More to say on that later. There's my dyslexia going. Two planets, the two celestial bodies, because one's a luminary, that I have in my chart. I will discuss example charts in part 2, because I want to make this just a simple little drop here. And I'll just Warren Buffett and Ray Kroc. I'm going to talk about them because they have multiple Nietzsche positions that also match some of the ones that I have. So that's why I wanted to just like, it's, you know, I could talk about myself. I feel weird talking about other charts and whatever, but if I can basically indict myself too, then it makes it kind of okay. But just to kind of tease this, like for instance, so Mars is one of them. Mars is Nietzsche in Cancer. Now, what this means really is, like, at the end of the day for me, it's like the soldier in the house of the mother, right? It's somebody. It's basically somebody who is meant to be going to war, but has to deal with their feelings at the same time. Then you have, or I have, I should say, Moon, Nietzsche in Scorpio. And actually these two happen to be the two celestial bodies that create a Paravatana yoga when they're in their simultaneous Nietzsche signs. So Moon rules Cancer, Mars rules Scorpio. They exchange rulerships. That's the only dual planetary situation where that happens, where there's two planets that are Nietzsche debilitated and basically create that exchange of rulerships. So, you know, I wear my debilitation proudly, especially when I find out certain people, like Mars is, you know, known for the soldier, the athlete. So the athlete, basically, to end all athletes, is Michael Jordan. There is no bigger household name than sporting-wise Michael Jordan. He completely revolutionized the game of basketball, made it interesting to watch. I don't know anything about basketball. I'm a baseball guy, so I'm going to talk about another baseball guy in this other drop. But again, like Jordan, because he had this particular way of feeling the ball or whatever, the one thing I know about him is he had to eventually be just convinced that he had teammates who could help him be a better player, and that's sort of how he evolved to become really the you know, pinnacle of what he became. And then the other one, the Moon in Scorpio, that I'll tease, is based on, you know, Veritas A and all that. Mozart, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, had his Moon in Scorpio. So again, you got the Moon in the place of like transformation for the soldier. It's not where the soldier becomes great on the battlefield. It's where the soldier goes to actually die and transform into the legend that he is to become. And certainly Mozart did that. I mean, he did so much in such a short space of time in a very young age. Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of things to talk about there, but that's a tease. And yeah, I kind of thought this might be a good time because, as I was saying in that forecast video, Venus is now in its zodiac sign of Nietzsche, Virgo, and we're basically going to have a march of various planets going through this position in very key times throughout this fall and into spring, starting with Venus. Then Sun goes into Libra, and right around the corner, Mars will be going into its Nietzsche position in Cancer. And Mars is particularly interesting because it's going to go retrograde, and what that will mean is for about 6 months, we're going to be doing a little bit of a shuffle with that particular planet, and those energies will be between Gemini and Cancer. So it's going to be, that may deserve its own video, and I may not be able to get around to it, but I did want to mention that this is something to look out for, how unconventional, non-linear, atypical energies might affect us all because of these Nietzsche positions over the next 6 months.